You're listening to the So Good It Doesn't Make Sense podcast, a podcast for women navigating divorce who want more. More clarity, more money, more peace, more power. I'm Megan Norris, divorce expert, coach, and the friend who's going to tell you the truth. Not just about what's happening right now, but about what's possible for you next. This podcast is about making decisions you trust, building a life you actually want, and becoming the version of you that no one saw coming. Whether you're in it, ending it, or already out, you're in the right place. You're about to become the CEO of your life and create one so good it doesn't make sense. Let's get started. Oh, hi, welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad that you're here. I want to talk about the importance of having a long game mindset in combination with a short term energetic blueprint, if you will. This is true when you're considering divorce. It's true during the divorce, and it's going to serve you well, really well after the divorce. But I'm going to tell you a story first to sort of set the scene here. When I was probably in middle school, I'm going to take you all the way back to my middle school years. I was 1992, 1993, 1994. I was in middle school. We were at a holiday gathering at my aunt's house. Okay. Aunt Trisha. And Aunt Trisha, God bless her. I love this woman. She had been divorced her second time at this particular, I think it was Thanksgiving gathering. And she had two kids, okay, my cousins. And I remember vividly, this has stuck with me my whole life. Her oldest son, who's my age, at the sink washing the dishes after the dinner. And his sister, my other cousin, helping clean up after the meal. And she keeps leaving the water running, turning it on and leaving it running, and he keeps turning it off. Okay. And they're kind of fighting with each other. And I'm watching it because that's what I do. I observe things. And I'm watching this play out. And I'm fascinated by it, even as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. They're fighting over this water. And she gets mad and she says, "Why do you even care?" He's like, "Well, you'll care one day when you're the one paying for the water." And at the time, I thought, oh, that's so funny, this brother-sister dynamic. And he's worried about he's like trying to conserve water and she wants to waste the water and she doesn't realize she's wasting the water. And I don't know why it made such an impression on me at the time, but it did. And I just have always had that in my consciousness. Okay, fast forward to the year 2020, fall of 2021, and I'm in the middle of my divorce. And I'm sitting at, I'm at my parents' house, and she's visiting, and she's sitting at the kitchen table with me, and she looks at me and she says, "I'm just so sorry for what this means for your life, because I know what it means for your life." And I remember looking at her, and I don't know what I said, but I remember thinking, wait, what? No. What? And I was so confused because I had done such a good job at isolating myself from any white noise that would create more emotional labor for me. So I didn't want to hear anybody's extraneous opinions or advice or thoughts on divorce, or I just didn't want to have to do that additional work. I highly recommend you get very selective about what you consume when you are getting divorced. And even afterwards, I still do this to this day. I'm very selective about who I follow on social media and what podcasts I listen to and what friends I speak to regularly. And I remember in that moment thinking, oh, what depressing. I was like, this is going to be the turning point in my life that changes everything. And I'm in charge of creating my reality, and I refuse to settle for anything less. And I walked away from that conversation kind of stung, but I also felt a lot of compassion and empathy for her. Because if you flash back to the 80s and the 90s, before there's internet, before computers are really connecting us the way they do now, and you had newspapers, you had the news on TV, and that was it. Word of mouth. And I put myself in her shoes back then with 2 kids. She's a teacher, and realized that, choices back then felt more limited. It felt like a bigger mountain to climb. You didn't necessarily feel like you had the choice to just stay single if you wanted. You really needed to get remarried. You needed a 2-income household, especially on a teacher's salary, raising 2 kids. And I had so much compassion for her in that moment and so much gratitude for getting divorced at the time I got divorced, because no better time to be getting divorced than right now. But then I remembered that scene from that holiday situation with my cousins. And I realized that her son was not just giving his sister a hard time and was not just conserving water and arguing over it. He was worried that his mom wasn't going to have enough money. And he was trying to help her conserve water so that the water bill would be lower. Because if as I recall, that was in between, that was before she got married again for the third and last time. And I had so much compassion for him, but also for my oldest son, who every now and then will let something slip out, indicating that he's worried about, no matter how much I say that we're okay, there's just this responsibility, this concern, this over functioning that he wants to do to like make sure that we're all safe. And I can talk to him about that through a different lens, a different perspective. That's a different episode. But the reason I wanted to tell you that story today is because even back in 2021, when she said that to me, and I thought, oh no, that's not my story. I knew in that moment that doesn't belong to me. That's not mine. So I don't need to be upset. I don't need to like resist that. That is a genuine expression of compassion from somebody's perspective that had a very different experience of divorce because we just didn't have the resources that we have now. So I knew that even back then, 4 years ago. But what I also knew back then, and here's what I think is going to help you all, is that this is a long game. In fact, it might be a lifetime. It might never actually happen the way I want it to happen. And that's okay. That's not the point. The point is to set the vision and head in that direction, understanding that without the surrender to the timeline, without you being okay with it taking 10 years, 15 years, that 2021 conversation was 35 years, 25 years after that moment in the kitchen with my cousins after Thanksgiving. And she's fine now, right? Financially, she's still married and her kids seem to be thriving, and that season passed. But how often do we get in a hurry because of how uncomfortable we are? And because we're in survival mode, we want to rush it, and we think we need a solution to this discomfort quickly. And we kind of expect it to be quick, because even if your legal divorce is taking 3 years, in the span of a lifetime isn't that long. And also in the moment you think this is taking so long, it should be solving all my problems. And we don't realize the duality of this and how important it is to have a long-term mindset, to be willing for it to take as long as it takes and not be in such a hurry because you've got your own back, you're becoming your own guarantee. You are not in control of all of the outcomes in your divorce or afterwards. You're not in charge of the timeline of when you create the success that you want, or um, your kids, you feel secure in in the idea that your kids look to like they're going to be okay. But you are in charge of your mindset around your lack of control, and you are in charge of your own agency. You're in charge of being able to control what you can control, which is you, your mindset, your energy slash emotions, and the actions you take, the way you show up in the world. And what I want you to adopt ASAP is this idea that your self-leadership has to show up with a long-term mindset, meaning it might take 10, 15, 20 years for you to really unravel this and to feel like you've reached a pinnacle or built something that you really wanted after your divorce. Now, if it's going to take 15 to 20 years, so say, I'm just going to say 10 years. This might take 10 years, and I'm okay with that. The inclination then is to take your foot off the gas and the focus off the vision today. Because if it's going to take 10 years, you start to feel a little powerless. So you have to combine this long-term mindset that removes the urgency, removes the pressure, gives you space and time with a short-term energy, a short-term gain energy. You have to both be willing for it to take as long as it takes and show up with the grit and determination and the expectation that it could also work out tomorrow. And if you knew it was going to work out tomorrow, you show up very differently today than you do if you're not expecting anything until 10 years from now. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't need everything to be fixed and figured out and cleaned up and perfect for 10, 20 years. And when you bring that mindset with the self-leadership and the energy of I'm dedicated to it today, and I'm going to show up today as if it's available to me in 2 years, in 2 months, and I'm going to see what's possible. You start to collapse time because you are way less attached to the outcome. See, this kind of change in your life is much more about understanding the process of change and falling in love with the process of growth than it is getting the thing that you want. I know that's hard to get your head around because we really want the things that we want. But if you don't love the process, if you can't find a way to appreciate the sanctity and the sacredness of the process of getting there, you will delay it, you will slow it down, you will drag your feet, you will never become the person who has the things that you want. It'll always kind of have an echo of familiarity. And that's okay. There's no moral judgment here. Some people choose that and it's fine. It's just that if you're listening to this, that's not what you want. You do want to break a cycle. You do want to change. You want to heal generations backwards and forwards. You want to set a different example. You want more for your life, and you want to show your kids that more is available for your life. And because of that, you really need to start thinking about this from a different lens. Because if we're just focused on getting divorced as the goal, we miss so many amazing opportunities to do the work that allows us to become the people, the women that have the incredible lives that we want, whatever that looks like for you. So, depending on how far you go back, for me, if we separated in the summer of 2021, of course, I can go back before that and the therapy and the work that I did with life coaching before that. And, all the kind of fumbling around trying to figure out what it is that was going on with me. But if we just start from the day of separation in the summer of 2021, we're now 4 years out from that. I can easily see how, oh, for sure, it's going to be another 4, maybe 8 years before I am settled, really settled, and feel I don't know if it's 100% solid or secure, but um, like I've accomplished what I have set out to accomplish. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the coach on it was talking about her years of experience. She's been doing this for almost 25 years now, and she's worked with many billionaires and millionaires going through divorce. And she was talking about her experience. And it was so fun to listen to that because I thought, yeah, and I've been doing this work, specifically the divorce work, for 3.5 years. Imagine in another 20 what I'll know, the wisdom I'll have, the growth I will have experienced. And I'm excited for that. I'm not in a hurry to get there. I'm willing for it to be really messy. And listen, right now it's feeling really messy. My business feels really messy. Um my life has felt messy for the last, really, since summer, May through the summer. It's just now starting to feel a little settled, but now my business feels really messy again. And there's always going to be that duality. So there's the duality in the mindset and the energy, right? We have to bring some really intentional self-leadership to our day-to-day choices and be willing for it to take as long as it takes. We have to also be willing to be on the growth edge in our own life. So if my business is feeling really messy right now and I can't really see through the fog and I'm in kind of a growth spurt and I'm feeling a little confused and a little unmoored, that doesn't also mean that I have to devalue or disconnect from the gratitude I have for how incredible my life is otherwise. We often want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is the horrible cliche. Where did this even come from? Now that I'm saying it out loud, we should never say that again. But we tend to lump everything together. And if you are experiencing a lot of discomfort, say with your ex or in your career, or maybe one of your kids is struggling, it's easy to get on the bandwagon and believe your whole life is terrible and sucks and is hard right now. But you have duality in your life too. And that's the skill set of being able to separate out the discomfort of growth without losing the gratitude you have for how far you've come and how safe you are today in this moment while you're listening to this podcast. Look around. What are you doing? Are you taking a walk? Are you in the car? Are you doing the dishes? Are you folding laundry? Are you at work, on a break? Wherever you're listening to this, right now in this moment, the sun is shining, or maybe it's a cloudy fall day and there's a cool breeze. Things are okay right now. And you have a whole host of things to be grateful for, one of which is yourself. Because you got you to here. Past you hooked you up today in many ways. And the work you do today is going to set the future you up. But if you're doing this work, it also means that in some area of your life, you're on the growth edge. You're on the cutting edge of creating a new result that you've never created for and that you've never created before in your life. And that is always going to be uncomfortable. But it doesn't mean your whole life is terrible and you're struggling in general. So it's the duality of the long-term mindset with a very intentional self-leadership energy that you bring to today, that you're going to show up as if it's going to happen today, but you don't need it to, and you don't even expect it to. You're showing up for the pleasure of being the CEO of your life. That's the point. And that might feel uncomfortable in some areas, and that doesn't mean you're struggling in general, because there's a lot of things that you can be grateful for that past you from 10 years ago labored, invested in to set up for you, whatever that is. Maybe you want to name those things. But I think the both and is a nuance that is easy to miss when you are managing a lot of survival-based emotions, fear and anger and frustration and scarcity. That's normal. That's the human condition. So you're not doing it wrong, but this is a better way just because you're going to feel better and you're going to be more effective. And this is when I start to see clients collapsing timelines. They just start collapsing time. And what should have taken 5 years takes 9 months. And what should have taken 10 years takes 2. That's the beauty of this work. And it's so fun. Trust me, 2 years from now, it's going to fly by, even if today feels so slow. And if you follow this blueprint that I'm giving you, you won't recognize your life in 2 years. You will be shocked and awed by what has transpired in a 2 year time. Even if you're not all the way to your goal yet. Isn't that fun? We gotta lighten the mood a little bit because we're so serious. Divorce is treated as a very serious thing, and there's a lot of scarcity around it. And we're starting from behind the line already with this is going to be hard and it's going to be awful and it's going to be messy and it's scary. So we're already working with some cooked in scarcity, and these shifts help combat that because you don't need extra work that you don't need. You know what I'm saying? Okay. You know where to find me. I hope you'll follow me on Instagram. I hope you'll opt into my newsletter. The link for that is in the show notes. I send out a weekly newsletter I love writing. It's got some coaching. It's got some client breakthroughs that are really fun to celebrate and hopefully will be inspiring. And then there's always a little personal note at the end from me too. So if you're not plugged in there, grab the link in the show notes. Make sure you subscribe and follow because that helps the podcast in the feed. And I will see you back here next week. Thanks for listening to the So Good It Doesn't Make Sense podcast. If today's episode resonated, please take a minute and leave a review. It helps women find this work and change their lives and divorces too. For more support, be sure you follow me on Instagram at Megan Norris Coaching. That's where I share real-time strategy, perspective, and what it actually looks like day to day. And when you're ready to go deeper, join the Divorce Academy, my monthly membership for women navigating divorce with clarity, power, and community. I'll see you next week. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for legal, financial, or mental health advice. Please consult with licensed professionals as needed.